So I put a post up on My Building Buddy recently, and there's 3 terms that I want you to really think of and consider. Research, so pushing the limits, ask bold questions, challenge everything. Plan, turn insights into action, map it out, build with precision, and then embed, make it stick. So reinforce your innovation, build a lasting culture with your team, yeah? All right. So while I'm going to go through this, I want you to consider what is a procedure. I want you to consider policies, and then consider, as a startup to a medium-sized builder, how you use quality to assist you and not make it laborious and too much red tape. So just to get a bit of an understanding, some of the documents that are really required in construction are quite in depth. And this is not limited. This is not inclusive. Receive documents, your plans and specifications. You're going to estimate. You will prepare your price and submit your tender. Your client's going to accept the price. You will sign your contract. The DI was either submitted before or after. That's including things like your waste management plans, your basics reporting, all of your plans and spec. Then you will go on, you will receive a construction certificate that will permit you to start building. Starting on your site, so you've got your DA, you've got your CC, then you can begin. Then you must have your WHS management plan. Any project over $250,000 will need to have a WHS management plan. Business plan is just something you need to have yourself. Make sure you have an understanding where you're going the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, correspondence, you're going to be diaries. You're going to have your record keeping, your site instructions, checklists, reporting. Program scheduling, maybe a Gantt chart, Microsoft project you'll be using. We'll do a few lessons on those. Quality assurance. Okay, I'm going to really go into this one in depth now, just so you can have it practically. Practical completion handover and so forth. So what is quality control? So it ensures products and services meet standards by measuring quality, comparing results to set benchmarks, and correcting any deviations. Now I've got some links here, which I'm going to show you. Designing buildings goes into it in depth, and it's actually not a bad website. It's probably a little bit outdated or a bit old, but it gets you an understanding of where it's going with ISO 9001, and I'll discuss that in more depth later. Alrighty. So I'll just simplify it. So quality assurance. So it is procedures and systems put in place to ensure quality of a product. Alrighty. So the importance of it is based on the principles of getting things done right the first time by implementing, maintaining, reviewing, and continually improving a quality assurance system. A company can achieve and reap the benefits of having such a system in place. Now, you've got to be careful with it where it doesn't get bogged down with too much red tape. I find that that's a big deal. So just briefly back on the history of it. So really it comes from back in Europe, back in the 13th century, where craftsmen, they started an organization or a union called guilds. And they would make sure that anything made by a guild member was up to standard and was sold for a fair price. So membership of a guild was an honor, as it was a sign that you were a skilled worker who had some respect in society. So quality control systems were first introduced, and it was taken with open arms. But as time progressed, 80s, back in the 90s, supervisors, site managers, they discovered that the amount of paperwork and red tape was not practical enough to stay up to date. So the systems failed. After years of consultation and trial and error, the processes, the QA system was simplified to make it more practical and on-site staff, for on-site staff. As the demand for better quality and more reliable products increased, The systems evolved to become the ISO 9000 series. I mentioned that before. These now rely on prevention rather than cure and are applicable to all industries, including construction. So I won't go through these videos. There's going to be some links in the bottom of the YouTube upload. But just to understand, you can set up your own quality systems following the ISO 9000. There's a quality assurance kit. It includes quality manual procedures and forms to ensure buildings meet client expectations. And the kit provides checklists for inspections, condition reports, and final handover documents to streamline processes. And that's probably getting a little bit outdated. I'm going to say that a lot of these are starting to get updated with AI to help benefit you. There's companies like BuildPass and a few others that are starting to come out that save time for builders, and you're doing everything on your phone. There's a good video there from LinkedIn that I'll put down in the bottom of the description. So implementing QA in your company, right? So slowly developing your policies and procedures for the benefit of your company. So if you're a startup and you're small, you just want to slowly build it up, but have an understanding about it. The following are some of the common procedures that you look to develop within your company. So you're going to get your document control. You need to start improving that over time. On-site resource requirements, purchasing, programming, contract procedures, how you do things, site meeting evidence, communication on site with your client, subcontractors, your stakeholders, any other stakeholders. Could be an inspection, could be a certifier. Maintaining your record keeping, WHS, business planning as discussed. How do you actually look after multiple projects? What's your T and C's for progress payments? How do you do that? Okay. And then look, I'm going to briefly touch on a couple of them, but quality control, inspection test plans and checklists. Can you develop these? Like, how do you get these to help you? Let's be practical. This is where I want to be really practical. If we go out in the construction industry to work for ourselves, we won't spend a lot of time on quality systems. We just want to build and earn. So a little bit of tongue in cheek here. You know, if you forgot something and it costs you a lot of money, you could be rework. Concrete was wrong. I've had heaps of jobs where I go at night, can't sleep because I'm not sure, or I'm worried about whether it's the correct concrete, it's the right MPA, it's the right aggregate. It's always stressful. Well, the service is incomplete. You'd already plastered the wall. So rework, it's painful. You're going to lose money and not be able to afford those, fancy cars or fancy holidays. This is where you try to use quality assurance to help you. As an example, an inspection and test plan documents the strategy that will be used to verify and ensure that a product or system meets its specification requirements. Okay. Here's a simple breakdown of one. Your trade title, location, your date, work sequence, your referencing. Okay. I've got an old one here from a company that I used to work with. They have actually allowed me to use it. Work activity, referencing, acceptance criteria, some of the inspection verifications. Okay, whether it's a hold point, you can just see it down on this one. Number S for sign off or a witness point. Had a really good job we did down the room many years ago, and I used that quite extensively just to check off and sign and make sure everything was fitted correctly. There's an old YouTube clip with regards to that. I did that a good 10, 15 years ago. I'll have that on the description. Now, checklists. So these can be similar to an ITP, but simplified and not necessarily referenced to spec or guidelines. So as an example, I've got a checklist for practical completion. So just look at some of the items, insurances, services, clients and builder to agree precisely what completion means. Like, is there landscaping included in the contract? Final inspections, your payments, protection. So when you hand it over, you need to make sure the insurances are resolved. Water valves, your electricity meter. So everything's like ticked off. This is a bit of an old-fashioned one, but that gives you some prompting and understanding to make sure everything's signed off. I've got a real good example here. And now I used to use the drawings, and I used to have ticks. And all my drawings was handwritten all over the place. So you can see I've ticked off parts of the slab or parts of the column or the footings that have actually been complete. You can see, oh, yep, that's done, that's done. I've got a cross there. So, there could be an issue with the steel. So I have to look into that before it's poured. Okay. Same with a couple of crosses here. What does that mean? Could be some issues with the starter bars. We've had to use bigger ones or smaller ones. You've got to make sure that it's confirmed that it's still compliant on the pour. Could you develop a checklist for these resources? Could you use the drawings as a checklist? You could. I really like it. I won't click on here, but this is from Prider, some of their resource guides. And I just put the question out. Could we use this as a checklist as well? So the actual truss layout plan, you could tick them all off. So you could see on here the C1, the C2s, your girder trusses, some of your saddle trusses or your valley trusses, have they been fitted correctly? Some of your Z sprockets, okay? You're signing that off and you're ticking off that it's been complete. I've just had an example. There's a circle there with a cross. Possibly the valley truss had to be made. Is that going to be an issue? I don't know. But it says it's been documented. I've got another couple that I've just highlighted. So you could have a checklist for some of these, like a pre-sheet. That would be awesome to have a checklist just to make sure the work is complete before you plaster all the walls. A pre-slab inspection, I really like that one. Having it prepared, checking everything before the actual pour. What I am going to show, AS 3740. Okay, so for this instance, I've been actual chatting to ChatGPT. You can see it's quite detailed. And I've asked ChatGPT, my building buddy, the one I created, can you please complete a comprehensive checklist to verify that waterproofing in a Class 1 building bathroom with a separate shower, bath and toilet complies with NCC Volume 2, the Housing Provisions and AS 3740. Can you write this with no spaces, no emojis, and no bullet points or check boxes so that this can be dropped into a Microsoft form and it can be completed on the user's phone? Okay, so I actually had to change it and I asked it to be written each point on the next line so I could just drop those in. Okay, now I've done that and I'm going to show you how it looks. Now I also highly recommend for you to use the Building Tools app because you can see the pictorials of. Now I've added it on the back of the screen so you can't see all of it, but I can just quickly go back to it. As an example, going to go to the home, click on Wet Area Overview, and it gives you the overview of everything required within the bathroom. Now, over time, you want to be an expert in understanding all of these items. They need to make sure it's compliant as per the housing provisions and AS 3740. Alrighty. Now, I'll just quickly go back. So I'll do this on mobile phone because I would prefer people to use it on their phone. Put your details in. So firstly, the heading is that you complete your Class 1 bathroom waterproofing compliance checklist. I'm going to scroll down here. Your address, your licensing, installation date, product, date, safety data sheet, product sheet. Well, there's an error there. I'll get rid of that. Membrane type and confirmed. Is it compliant with AS 3740? Manufacturer instructions available and followed. Substrate clean and stable, dry and primed. Bond breakers installed. Membrane covers minimum 1800 mil above finished floor level. Yes. In the internal showers. Yes, no, or NA. And I've got a good 25 to 30 questions just to confirm that you're going to check off on that. Now, you could do that really quickly on your phone. Alrighty, I'll make sure there'll be a link where you can download that yourselves, or I can update it if you wish.